All right. It's Natty Monday. It's 2 of 2 for this year. We already got football out of the way back in January, and now it's time for basketball. I would say, Luke, that this is a much better national championship than we got for football this year. Like the basketball gods blessed us, whereas the football gods snatched quality football from our hands several times during the playoff. But this is a blessing, as the Final Four was as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the best championship games I can remember in terms of build up and anticipation and who they beat in the round before. Obviously, Gonzaga, when they were undefeated, that was a good one. Obviously, North Carolina versus Kansas, two blue bloods. That whole Final Four was great. Baylor and Houston ended up being a great game, and I'm glad to see Houston back here because it's a completely different makeup. And I don't know if I'd have to go back and fact check this, but I'm pretty sure that LJ Cryer was on that Baylor team that won it all. I could be wrong, but I know he transferred from Baylor and he's on this Houston team now, so we'll see.
I think you're right. I think you might have been on that team.
And that was ended up being a great game. I mean, that Baylor team kind of came out of nowhere, and it kind of reminds me of this Florida team this year, where just a complete team, great on offense, great on defense, solid down low. I mean, Walter Clayton is the best player in this tournament.
Yes.
I think that's an understatement. The shots he made against Auburn and against Texas Tech and against UConn have almost single-handedly brought Florida to where they are. And basically, I'm just excited to see. Houston shocked me, obviously. I didn't really get to watch much of that game, to my dismay, but I'm really excited to watch Houston build off that comeback win like they have all year against this Florida team that's looked dominant over the past month and a half.
That was a game. The ending of that Duke Houston game, I'll never forget where I was when it took place.
Yeah,
just the magnitude of it, just the magnitude of the dismantling of Duke, the collapse of Duke in that last minute. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I've seen teams go on dry spells, right? You know, they went 7 minutes without scoring, which is not ideal, especially for a team of that caliber in the Final Four.
right.
But I've seen bad runs like that,
Right.
but to not be able to recoup and then be up by 6 with 30 seconds left and continue to collapse. Get that they couldn't inbound, and then they had the turnover as well. I've never seen a sequence like that, and a game of that magnitude, and I think it'll be a long time until I see something like that again. It was unbelievable, and Houston's going to be playing with a lot of momentum tonight because of that.
And I'll say this, even though that comeback was massive and the stage it was, Houston's done that before this year. Just in February, they were down 6 points against Kansas with 15 seconds left and somehow went into overtime in Allen Fieldhouse and won that game. So if you're Florida and you go up 10 points, you go up even 6 points, 7 points, don't let your foot off the gas because this Houston team has no quit in them. And it's evident in the way they play. I mean, I think I saw a tweet earlier today, and it was like, Houston must just run miles and punch each other in practice every day because that's how they play. They're tough-nosed. Obviously, Alabama played them earlier in the year, and that was we ended up winning in overtime, which I don't know how. But this Houston team, they play like how their coach is, gritty, hard-nosed, and they represent their university very well.
Oh, this is a Kelvin Sampson coach team. Have you seen the practice tapes when they're trying to rebound each other and they're going on the floor getting those loose balls? I mean, that's discipline that's instilled in practice.
Yeah, and you can tell too. And they're a well-oiled machine. I always talk about throughout the season. I always talked about Florida's offensive sets and how well and organized they run the offensive side of the ball. And Houston gets a lot of hate, I think, at times, unnecessary hate for not having just a go-to guy and a go-to scorer. But in March, one guy can carry you so far. But if you can rely on 6 or 7 people to go get you a bucket when it matters most, you're going to be in good hands. And it's no surprise to see Houston in this championship game, even though I did think Duke was a Titan that was going to be hard to take down, and Houston's the one that did it.
And they were. I mean, Duke was up by as much as 15 in the second half. Yeah. I mean, usually you close that out. Duke was the better team on Saturday night, and they were playing a gritty team. I think that's I think that Duke started to succumb to the mentality of looking forward to the Florida game, and they forgot to close that game out. As elementary as that sounds,
Right.
it happens. It
And
happens,
I'll
especially when two of your stars are freshmen. You're relying
right.
on Knepple and Flag, and when two of those guys are freshmen, it's just, you haven't been there before.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's just, and I'll speak to just two things real quickly about that Duke game. I know we're supposed to be looking ahead
Yeah.
to tonight, but the one big thing I noticed that attributes to the toughness that Houston has is Kaman Malawak, who's been just a force down low all season, had 0 rebounds against that Houston team. One, that's unacceptable for Malawak. Two, it goes and shows the toughness of Houston and how focused they are on the singular details, boxing this guy out, making sure he's not going to get his hands on the ball. And Houston rebounds in the most unique way I've ever seen. They don't have a guy who's 7 feet tall, but they tip the ball out to their guards, and it seems like they get a hand on the ball every single time. Even that weak side rebound down 67-64, the weak side rebound dunk by Joseph Tugler was just like a key component of the game and just what they do every single day. I mean, I've watched a lot of Houston basketball over the past 4 or 5 years. They play the exact same way every single night. The consistency is there. Tonight, it's going to be about whether or not they have the offensive firepower to stop Florida.
Oh, absolutely. They're going to, and it's like a scouting report, right? I mean, there's certain boxes that Houston is going to have to check tonight. I mean, you're going to have to hold Florida to a certain points total. You're going to have to slow down their tempo. You have to make sure they're not taking as many shots. You're going to, I mean, somebody as special as Walter Clayton, you're never going to completely take him out of a game, but you've got to make him feel a little bit uncomfortable. You just have to disrupt the rhythm of Florida's offense, generate turnovers. Houston's in a situation where they're on paper. I'm never going to say they're outmatched. On paper, they're outmatched. But they're in a situation where things need to go their way to win, and they need to execute a certain way to win. But with that being said, knowing the identity of this team that has been instilled into it by Kelvin Sampson, there's not a doubt in my mind that they are capable of doing that. This is by no means a game where you look at it and say there's a clear favorite.
Right.
They're as good as Florida is. Houston is one of those teams that you can never completely count them out because of those little fundamentals, because of how physical they play and how much they frustrate opponents on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
This is whoever. I heard a scout say a few weeks ago about Duke. You got to have a near perfect game to beat them. You have to have a clean game of football, or excuse me, I'm wrong sport. You have to have a clean game of basketball to beat this Houston team.
Yeah, I mean they've lost one game since December, February, or January.
Yeah, it's 18 straight.
Yeah, I mean it's this team is on fire right now, and I know obviously we've talked about the keys to the game for Houston. I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on the keys to the game for Florida as well, because I think it's get Walter Clayton the ball, and I think it's get a body on somebody and don't commit too many fouls. If the big men get in trouble and foul trouble, it's going to be a long night, because I'll tell you what, as good of rebounding guards as Florida has, they're not going to get rebounds over Juwan Roberts. They're not going to get rebounds over Joseph Tugler. They're not going to get rebounds over Milos Uzan. They're not going to get rebounds over Emmanuel Sharp. Those guys are going to battle you for every loose ball. And I think if Florida loses the 50-50 balls like they did in the first half against Auburn, by the time that they figure out by the time they get their shit together, they're going to have a hard time getting back in the game. You saw what Houston did to Tennessee, a team that was equally as capable of doing that to Florida. Florida has to come out focused, and I know that's cliche to say it's a national championship game. They're going to be focused, but they've had slow starts recently in the NCAA tournament. If you get off to a slow start against Houston, you might not be able to battle back.
I mean, you have to know if you're Florida, and again, I'm sure this is something that's being heavily preached by Todd Golden going into this game, but you have to know that you're going to get punched in the mouth the minute you go on the score tonight. Houston wants blood. They're in their home state.
Yeah,
they have a great traveling crowd tonight. They've got that on their side, that momentum. And this is a badass basketball team, and they want to punch you in the mouth, and it's almost like jumping into a cold tub playing against this Houston team. It just sucks.
Yeah.
Everybody from Florida. I mean, Walter Clayton, Alex Condon, Elijah Mitchell. Everybody's going to be banged up after tonight, and you've got
Yeah.
to be mentally prepared for what you're about to get into. But with that said, playing a defending national champion in UConn, but playing who I consider to be a titan in Texas Tech, and then playing with the most complete teams in college basketball this year in Auburn, and emerging with victories in all three of those games, I don't think there's a team out there that's more qualified to weather that storm against Houston than the Florida Gators tonight. And that's got to be the key, is mentally, you hear the cliche, expect the unexpected, expect the expected tonight.
Yeah.
Because Houston's going to come out and they're going to punch you in the mouth. But this Florida team is equipped and they're ready.
Right. I mean, and even going before the NCAA tournament, they played in the SEC all year. I mean, which if it's been said to be the best conference of all time. It had 14 NCAA tournament teams. 13 of those teams made it to the round of 64. Florida played every single one of those teams, some of them twice. They beat other teams that didn't have to play in the NCAA tournament, like Alabama. They beat them twice. Really, the only team that I feel like they should have beat that they lost to was Georgia, and they were down 20 points and still found a way to take the lead late in that game. Just couldn't ultimately close it out in a tough rivalry game on the road against a team that desperately needed it. And I think that Florida has the upper hand in this game simply because of that go-to guy. I mean, that's what you always talk about in March Madness. I think that they'll come out, and I think Todd Golden, as much as we talk about Kelvin Sampson, Todd Golden has been just as good this year, if not better. Everybody knew this Florida team was going to be capable of doing something like this, but I don't think many people really had them as a preseason national championship game title contender. And I really think, I mean, personally, I don't want to spoil who I'm going with early, but I think that Florida's going to be ready to go. And I think, like you said, expect the expected. And I've got a lot of trust that Florida will come out ready to play.
Oh, absolutely. They're going to be mentally prepared for tonight. And it's Florida was one of those teams, like, I'll be honest, I didn't look at them and say, yeah, this is a national champion this year. I thought they're going to be a really good team, but I didn't know what they were truly capable of until they went to Neville Arena and beat Auburn head-to-head and control the tempo of that entire game. I was like, wow, that was badass, because I just remember how Auburn was playing at that time and how people, the media, fans are talking about Auburn and just the pedigree that they were at the time. And for them to just go in there and not give a shit and just completely clean house in Neville Arena. Nobody else did it this year. I mean, Alabama won off a buzzer beater in overtime, but nobody went into Neville Arena and just completely kicked Auburn's ass.
That had to be up there. That had to be up there as one of the, outside of the year where Auburn was down with Sharif Cooper, that has to be one of the worst losses in Neville Arena for Bruce Pearl in his tenure there, outside of in recent memory at least.
And I can't even say that it was embarrassing, because it wasn't a reflection of Auburn. I really just walked away from that game and I was like, wow, this Florida team is actually unbelievable.
I remember going in that game thinking, like, maybe, this Auburn team is being called the best team of all time already. Like, they're saying, like, if they win the championship, they go on a run, they're going to be considered the best college basketball team of all time. And then you check the score. I think I was actually in Coleman Coliseum watching an Alabama game, but I checked the score and Florida's up 20 points against them. And it's like, well, Auburn's surely going to come back, right? And it just never even got closer than that. I think they cut it to 12 at one point, and then Florida just ran away with it. And that's when you really looked at them and you're like, this team is not only capable of winning it all, this team is a well-oiled machine. Like, obviously I think you picked them in your bracket. I picked them in my bracket as well, as a lot of people did. I think Duke was the most picked, followed by Auburn and then Florida. So it's not like we're out here picking the giant underdog to win it all. But there's, even going into the tournament, people said you can't win the SEC tournament and win the NCAA tournament. So Florida has a chance to do something great. That I think the last time that was done was by Florida, actually. Maybe Kentucky. No, probably Kentucky with Anthony Davis. But
Yes. Yeah.
but an SEC team has not won the NCAA tournament since that Anthony Davis team. So
Which that team was an absolute anomaly in
yeah,
itself. And
yeah,
that's I will say I had Florida as the best team in college basketball since that game when they beat Neville or when they beat Florida or they beat Auburn in Neville Arena.
yeah.
I stood on that. What was crazy to me was all year long, and I know we gotta get to the prediction, but what stuck to me all year long was that even after that loss, people still thought Auburn was better. Auburn was still ranked above them.
Oh yeah, all year.
No respect for Florida whatsoever, and that's why I love where they are right now, and it's been a fantastic story. But I want to ask you, the way I want this to flow here is I want to give our predictions, and then I want to give our favorite moment from the March Madness tournaments.
All
You
right,
know,
I like that.
after that to cap it off because we've been doing this the whole tournament, and so I want to do something special to cap it off. So
Love
predictions
that.
and then favorite moment.
I love that. So obviously, talked a lot about Houston's toughness, how they're going to control the board, or at least try to. They're going to rough it up, make it a dirty game, make it a street fight, as some would say, slugfest. Ultimately, I think Florida gets it done. I'm going to bring in the point spread here. The point spread's 1, so Vegas is expecting it to be a slugfest as well. But I'm taking Florida simply because of the depth they have. When some of their guys were out, when a Martin was out, they got Denzel Aberdeen more time to play. He's like their 8th man now, and he started 3 or 4 games, and you can just put him in. They have another guy, I think his last name's Klaskar. He played a lot during the regular season. So I think ultimately the depth and the best player in the tournament in Walter Clayton Jr. is going to win this game. And that's no disrespect to Houston because obviously we've harped on it a lot. They're a great team, well-coached team, disciplined team. I love what they do. I like the style of basketball they play. But ultimately, I think Florida's got it.
So during my tenure of doing this, I've been operating this channel. It just turned 2 years old on my birthday, March 27th, actually, surprisingly enough. And we're rolling ahead here and just through experience. Yes, got clapped up for that. Come on,
Yes, sir.
come on. We gotta celebrate that. We gotta
Yes,
get
sir.
hyped about that. Throughout the tenure of this, there's been teams that have made me look very good. The Arkansas Razorbacks when they beat St. John's, right? I mean, I was really grateful for that. The Chiefs have made me look good a lot on this channel.
Right.
Alabama's made me look good a lot. But then there's been teams that have made an ass out of me. Both teams that were in the Natty in 2024 for football, Michigan and Washington made an ass out of me because I picked against them the whole time leading up. And they both went to the Natty, and then I picked Washington to win, and Michigan won the Natty. So Michigan made me look like an ass. Michigan fans don't like me very much, and that's understandable.
Yeah, that's how it should be, though.
That's what's all about. I love the rivalries with this.
Right.
I don't want to do that with Houston. I really don't, because I know that Houston is a team that's capable of proving us all wrong. They did the other night. I mean, obviously you're gonna have a lot of people go with Duke because of Cooper Flag and Con Kneppel and Malawach and Sion James and Proctor.
Right.
But and it was a well-educated pick, but Houston, they made us swallow our pride on Saturday night.
Yeah,
they're a team. A lot of people picked Kansas to beat them when they came back and won for being down by 6, and they played in the field house back in February. It's just what they do. So I'm so terrified of picking against a team that has that capability, that bandwidth to do that. And they play so physical, and they're so well coached.
Right.
I love guys on that team. LJ Cryer, Robert, so many of them. Like I love that Houston team. But you look at a Florida, and they run 10 deep. And that's every championship team has that. You saw it with Ohio State. You saw it with Alabama several years ago when we beat Ohio State in the Natty. It's just these deep teams. And there's also an inflection point that these teams hit.
Yeah.
Like like Ohio State did when they lost to Michigan. I think Florida hit an inflection point when they beat Auburn. It was a confidence booster, and they haven't been the same team since in a good
Yeah.
way. They've been a
Yeah.
force to be reckoned with. And you have a guy. Ohio State, the guy in offense was Jeremiah Smith. Distribute the ball to him, you eat. Same with Walter Clayton. Give the ball to Walter Clayton. I haven't seen a shooter like this in college basketball in a while. He can just turn on a dime and knock a shot down. His
Yeah.
footwork, his release, it's unbelievable. It's one of the quickest releases I've seen in years.
Yeah.
You have a rebounder in Al Condon. You have somebody who's, I would say the glue of that team, and Elijah Mitchell, ignited that team with that dunk the other night. They have all the ingredients of a championship team, and the key, like you said, is going to be coming out, not letting Houston's physicality get to you. The big thing I will say, the key for Florida tonight over anything is composure.
Yeah.
Because Houston is going to try to piss you off.
Yeah.
So you got to stay locked in. You got to stay locked into the end goal and make well-educated shots, pass the ball like you have all year, protect the rim, don't get into foul trouble, make Houston shoot, make Houston uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're just as good. You're just as good of a team as Houston is. Make Houston feel a little uncomfortable. They are not remotely as good of a shooting team as Florida is.
Yeah.
Make them shoot the three. Don't let them get into that interior and beat you up around the basket. I think Florida's capable of doing all those things. I think this will be a chippy, low scoring game, kind of like that Duke Houston game was. I don't know if it'll even get into the 70s.
Yeah.
But the way I see it right now, I have Florida winning this thing 72-65. I think it's a closer game with like 4 minutes left. I can see them battling around 59, 58, 61, 60. I can see them battling right around there. But then Houston's going to have to start fouling Florida. They're going to go to the line. They're going to extend that lead and seal the deal. And the Gators will be national champions. So they'll be bringing their third back to Gainesville. And I got to say, Florida's a brand. I've always loved Florida. Even though I'm an Alabama alum, I've always had love for Florida. The brand is awesome. And I'm very happy to see them competing at the highest level at another sport, whether it's football, basketball. It's good to see them competing at the highest level.
Well, I think you're going to find this funny. I had a couple buddies text me earlier and say I need a score prediction for the game, and I didn't give them exact numbers, but I said I have Florida by 7. So I think we're on the same page there. And which tends
65. I think they'll just break the 70s with those free throws.
That tends to happen on here more often when we do our streams, more often than not, similar score predictions or whatnot.
And some of them are crazy close too. That's why you watch them. Some of these score predictions are insanely accurate. We know ball.
Yes, we do.
We are ball knowers.
Hey, I'll say this though. Going back to the favorite moment of the tournament.
Yes.
This is an easy one for me. This is a team that I loved all year. I love this player all year. I love the nickname that they have. And I picked them to go far in my bracket, ultimately losing the Sweet 16. But it was Derek Queen's buzzer beater against Colorado State. I had a feeling that we were both gonna be on that one.
I was gonna say the Derek Queen buzzer beater. That Colorado State game was nuts.
With the Crab Five against one of my favorite non-Alabama players in all of college basketball, Neek Clifford. I hate that they had to go up against each other. I hate for Maryland how it went with Kevin Willard during the tournament, during that run, and after the tournament. I mean, I think he was a real jackass for the way he handled everything there, and that's not to mince words lightly. I guess that is mincing words for what I really feel about him. But but yeah, overall, I go Derek Queen. And also, I mean, I enjoyed. This is going to be crazy, but how Will Wade handled his hire at NC State and then getting a tournament win for McNeese and continuing to help them get their program to stay on track and stay on this upward trajectory. So I props to Will Wade for the first time ever in history.
No, I will say the way I I was thinking about picking the Dairy Queen buzzer beater. I do have another one that I'm going to save for my favorite, but I do have to commend McNeese. It's as far as focus and blocking out the external factors go. That was a masterclass against
Yeah,
Clemson, a team that beat Duke just over a month and a half ago. From that date, McNeese went into that game, and I picked Clemson because I thought McNeese wasn't going to have focus
right.
because it's always I compare it to the Lions Redskins game in the divisional this year when all the players knew that Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson were going elsewhere,
Right.
and you could tell something was off that whole night. I was thinking you were going to get that iteration of McNeese. Completely proved me wrong, and in a good way. I was very happy for the Cowboys. I hated seeing them go out the way they did the second rounds,
Yeah.
but that first round, it was that win was special for that program, and Maryland was a special team to watch. I wish they went further, but they got matched up with the buzzsaw Florida, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. As far as my favorite moment goes, it's recent. I don't want to succumb to recency bias here, but it is Florida's victory over Auburn.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm with you there.
Because of, I mean, yes, like I know us being Alabama guys, so it's there. It definitely definitely is a very good feeling that you experience after that. But that's not the sole reason. I promise I'm not letting bias get in. Maybe a little bit, but not really.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because of the adversity that Florida battled through. I think that there's a lot of teams that early in that second half would have crumbled because Auburn is such a deep team. They're such a well-coached team. And when they get a grip on you, you usually can't escape. I mean, look what they did to Michigan State the game before and Michigan the game before that. They suffocated Michigan State like they never had a chance. And you could see that same plot unfolding for Florida. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, there was actually a time in the second half where there's a tornado about to take place, about to unfold in New Albany, Mississippi. And I went on to Ryan Hall's live stream for a few minutes because I wanted to see what was going on, make sure we're up there was safe. Prayers out to Mississippi, Georgia, where he's been hit by those tornadoes, Arkansas. But I tuned back into the game and I saw Florida closing the gap.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to their toughness and their mental fortitude. Because I will say too, and I'm not a big blame the ref guy, but that was unreal. The calls that Auburn was getting in that second half, they were getting every single freaking whistle you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, they didn't get much.
Florida still kept the front of the gas, and they still won. And that I think that's really impressive.
I agree. I like that, and I will say I didn't think Florida got many calls in the second half. And they always go. I knew once they always go on these little runs that I think it's like the Golden State Warriors used to do back in the day. That was called the death run, where they just shoot teams out of the building, turn them over, get them a little bit rattled. And I knew when Florida went on that 9-0 run to tie the game up, that was their little death run that put them back in the driver's seat of the game and put them back on top.
Well, that's exactly what it was. And I've kind of compared them to the Warriors a little bit just because of Walter Clayton's shooting abilities. I think Auburn saw him heat up, and I think mentally it seeped in a little bit. They knew they didn't have a guy like Walter Clayton. As much as Chad Baker-Mazara tried to be one, and he knocked down some big shots in the second half. At the end of the day,
he doesn't have that capability.
That kind of shooter, and Florida just boxed them out.
Real quickly, I know because the games, we got to get this game previewed. Know everybody watching's got to go get ready for the game, grab some beers, grab some food, whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Masters Week. Give me just a quick rundown. You got a pick. You got a favorite this week?
I've got Bryson DeChambeau winning it.
Interesting. I like that.
I got Bryson DeChambeau. He's gonna get a green jacket.
I'm gonna go Colin Morikawa. I think
that's an interesting pick. I've heard that a few times.
I think he's due, man. I think he's been so close recently, and he's hitting the ball well. And so I think him, and I like my boy Sepp Straka, but that's a biased pick.
You know who my second pick is Victor Hovland.
Yeah, found it out of nowhere. What was it, last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, found it out of nowhere. And
Victor Hovland's a baller, right? I think at some point he's going to get his too. So yeah, Matt, this is one of the greatest weeks right here. I mean, we're already seeing the Instagram posts, seeing the azaleas and the moss, and it's that beautiful green golf course. Like, there's no better destination for golf in the world than Augusta National, and I will be posted up watching that, especially all day Sunday. I will be doing nothing else but watching the Masters. And one more thing before we go, I want to wrap it up with this one here. What's one moment from the tournament that really pissed you off?
That pissed me off?
Yeah.
The fact that Missouri couldn't get it together against Drake. I mean, that one was just that I had Missouri all the way, man. Like, I was so heavy on Missouri. I advocated against Drake so much, and credit to Drake. They just grinded it out and did what they did to a lot of teams. But I was very upset with that and the second game played in the tournament with Texas blowing the lead against Xavier. That made me mad.
Yes. That one freaking bad. That one pissed me off too.
It's like, oh, great start for the SEC.
And then they just absolutely gag it. And Xavier's a great team, so I got to give it to them.
And then took their coach. Then they took their coach. Xavier Texas fired Rodney Terry and hired Sean Miller right after they just got beat and blew the lead. So I was just like, that whole situation makes me mad.
I'll never understand that. That whole sequence was just mind-boggling. That's only Texas could lose a game of that magnitude and then be able to poach their opposing team's coach. That's what they do.
Seriously,
but
makes
only they could pull that off.
What about you?
There's two. First rounds, Louisville losing to Creighton.
Yeah, that
the
was
first
annoying.
game of the entire tournament. Of the round of 64.
Bracket busted.
Louisville in their home state couldn't even no-show. How the hell did that even happen? Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. I mean, it was just unreal. So that one, and then second round, Texas A&M choking a 9-point lead in the second half to Michigan. It's just one of those things where, my buddy Chris Phillips that I follow with SEC Unfiltered, he had a video the other day, asking about if when they lost Buzz Williams, about if Texas A&M is cursed. And I don't know, because they've had so many football teams where you look at it and you're like, wow, this is a really formidable team. And then nothing happens, 8-4. And then this team as well. You've got a 9-point lead against Michigan. I'm like, yeah, they'll be playing Auburn in the Sweet 16. No, they gag it up. It's like when will the tide ever change for this school? It's unbelievable.
Well, hey, and one quick little tidbit. Last thing, Texas A&M just hired former Mountain Brook basketball head coach Bucky McMillan. Just want to say I have his phone number from playing when I was a little kid, so get some clout there. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Luke Close is connected to the new face of the Aggies. There we go. That's that's honestly that's a non-subtle flex. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, weird flex, but okay.
No, I mean, you can just text him. I'm about to play them. Roll Tide.
He'd probably be like, "Who's this?"
This is twerp I coached back in 2007.
Yeah, it's like hopefully he doesn't change his number.
Well, if A&M does the A&M thing, he's gonna have no choice.
Yeah, true.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Luke. We got to get to this thing. We're 16 minutes out from tip, so it's time to hop off, go crack open a beer, and watch this thing. But thank you all for tuning in this entire tenure along the tournament, and there's plenty more. I based on the success of the March Madness content, things are definitely going to be evaluated for the future about this channel and its coverage of March Madness, because something special is definitely tapped into. So we're going to be evaluating that behind the scenes, and we'll decide the approach we're going to take come the start of the season. But thank you all for coming on, and thank you, Luke, for being a fantastic guest. You've been a real ball knower this entire time, and it's been a pleasure having you on here.
Always a pleasure, and we've had a great year from football and basketball, and hopefully we can keep it up next year.
Yes, sir. You know it. We continue to build this thing brick by brick. But thanks
Yes,
for hopping
sir.
on, Luke, and thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day.